Hello everyone, I hope you're all well. Welcome to another video on the Try to Be Iron channel. In today's installment we're going to pick up on a previous video in which I looked at where to start in triathlon. If you've not seen that, I'll link to that in the cards. So this video is all about looking, I suppose, at the cost side of triathlon. Really looking at it from a budget perspective. What realistically do I have to spend to get into this sport? Now, I have written a blog post on this in the past, although it was from a slightly different slant. It's quite an interesting read. Okay, I know I've written it, I'm plugging myself there, but do go check it out. I'll put a link to the description below. But I'm going to say this now, triathlon is not a cheap sport. Even if you want to make it a cheap sport or do it on a budget, it's bloody hard. You know, you've got 3 sports, quite a lot of gear, a lot of equipment, the time you spend training. There's a lot of investment in it, and the cost can certainly add up. Now, in that previous video, I went through the basic gear that you need, but if you want the latest gear, the better equipment, or the newer gadgets and gizmos that go with this sport, then things start to add up and it starts to get really quite expensive. So what can we do to do it on the cheap? And that's without all those fancy gadgets and gizmos. Now, if you're savvy, you browse eBay, yes, sure, you can pick up some of these things on the cheap and you can save yourself a little bit of money. But most of the prices that I'm going to use today are going to come from a well-known online store, and I'm not going to say their name, but I'm pretty sure most of us here, particularly in the UK, use them. They're one of the biggest online retailers for all the sports gear that you probably need. Now, you can exclude some of this if you've already got some of this gear and equipment, but we are going to take this from the viewpoint that we don't actually have any of this. So I'm going to start with the gear, and like I've already said on some of this, if you already possess some of this gear, then you're quids in. And you can save yourself a bit on the initial expenditure. But what I am going to do is I'm going to try and take each sport one by one, and we'll go through each of those at a time. Look, everyone's got a towel. Most people usually have costumes or trunks. You may even have some goggles. So we're pretty much there with the swim, I would say. But think about this. Who wants to swim in baggy shorts? Okay. So baggy shorts and old costumes are out of the question. So what are we talking about here? Well, we're going to need some jammers and a new costume, obviously. What are they going to set you back? Well, jammers you're looking at, and a costume, and then goggles. If you don't possess goggles, you're going to need some goggles. It's bloody hard swimming out without goggles. So what are we looking for? Goggles. Goggles are going to set you back another. There you have it. And like I said, this is all using this one online retailer that I buy most of my gear through, but you probably could pick some of these up cheaper elsewhere. And the other thing that we mustn't forget is a wetsuit. If you're going to swim in open water, you need a wetsuit, and the cheapest wetsuit that I've found ranges between £75 and £85. It's different for women and different for men, so yeah. Oh, and the other thing I mustn't forget, this stuff. Now, if you're wondering what that is, this is anti-chafing cream. Trust me, you are not going to want to swim in a wetsuit and not use this stuff. Who wants chafing sores all around their neck and other parts of their body? And our running total is... And then you come to these things, bikes. And the bike is probably going to be the biggest expense that you incur. And I wouldn't write off second-hand markets, because I'm sure you could probably pick something up there for slightly cheaper. But What I did find was the cheapest road bike online, and it isn't with the retailer that I'm all referring to with the other prices, but elsewhere. And again, they're a bigger retailer. I'm not going to name any names, but the cheapest I found was between £300 and £399. And then we need to consider kit. And one of the most important pieces that you're going to need is one of these, a helmet, right? You can't race without one. How much is it going to set you back? Well, and then we've got things like bib shorts, jerseys. Bib shorts you're looking at, and a jersey, the cheapest I found was. And then we come to shoes, and I was umming and ahhing about whether I include shoes in this, but I'm going to include them because I think they do make a real difference, and for me they're an essential bit of kit. Yes, you can get by in a triathlon without cycling specific shoes, but it does make your life harder. And I always know that when I go out on my commuter bike and that's just got normal pedals on, and I never understand how I used to do it without cycling shoes. And you will have to consider there about changing your pedals on your bike so that you can obviously use the specific shoes with them. But how much are we looking at? Well, these new ones, my Physiques, I think they cost me £125, but you can spend less, so don't worry. I think the cheapest I found was for... So what are we up to in terms of our running total? And last but not least, we come to the run. And I think the first thing that we need to start with is trainers, right? Trainers, we need trainers to run. In fact, here's my trainers here. There's a few of them, a few pairs just along the wall. They go right around there, and that's just a few. But trainers are important. Now you can pick trainers up for as little as £35, and there's quite a range out there. Now I'm not going to say that they're going to be the best for you or going to be suitable for you. You know, certain runners like specific types of shoes. Certain shoes are made for your foot shape and your running style. All of those things. So yeah, you've got to bear that in mind. Now on top of this, we're going to need run gear, right? And what with the changing seasons, you're probably going to need a selection from shorts, running tights, vests, tops, those kind of things. So to put a price on this, what I'm going to do is put a range, and that range is somewhere between... So there you have it, everyone. I think I've covered most of the fundamental things. There are some unwritten costs that I haven't spoken about, you know, things like your bike, maintaining your bike, silly things like tubes and tyres, which I've had to buy last week. Things like swimming pool fees, gym fees, race fees. They are all additional things that you don't necessarily consider to begin with. Now I know a lot of triathletes don't start off in the position with the best and the latest gear. It takes time, we build them up. I certainly didn't have a tri bike to begin with, and it was only after 3 or 4 years in the sport that I decided to purchase one. Most of us are transitioning from other sports, so we do have that gear initially at home. So don't forget that most triathletes build up their gear and their equipment over time. Hopefully this video has been informative for you, particularly any newbies out there or those that are thinking about getting into it. Do chuck me a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and I would look forward to seeing any comments or opinions or suggestions or views that you've had around this video. And if you're not a subscriber, and it seems like a lot of people that are watching these videos are not subscribed, please subscribe. Every little helps, and I'd really appreciate if you could do that. And I'll see you Sunday. See you then.